What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today, we're talking about kind of a ridiculous rumor, and we'll get into why I believe it's ridiculous. But if you're new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. Lots of Leaf content coming on the daily. I'm going to be coming with those Leaf season previews, the player previews, everything. So make sure to subscribe. Like I said, I'm trying to make this my full-time gig. Liking and subscribing literally could change my life, so please do so. I love making content. I love talking to you guys. Make sure to comment down below what you want to see. This is your channel too, so make sure to comment down below. It's just as much yours as it is mine. So I wanna keep you guys happy, but I want to talk about something that was commented on my latest video when we're talking about William Nylander, because to be fair, he's still probably the most polarizing guy when it comes to Leafs offseason rumors. Will he stay? Will he get traded? Obviously, his cap hit doesn't have any effect on this season, but it will in the following offseason. It will in the following season. So it's been talked about, do they trade him? Do they hold on to him? Do they try to sign him mid-year? Do they trade him at the deadline, which would be ridiculous, depending on where they are in the standings? Knock on wood, hopefully they're doing quite well. But I never want to knock anyone or their sources, but there's been a guy that people comment about all the time and his website, and this has happened many times, and I haven't touched on it. And it's been something that has been brought up multiple times, but we're going to talk about it today. And that is hockeybuzz.com. And it's from Eklund. And a few days ago, he put on his page, Leafs and Isles working Nylander deal. Pajot involved. Update later today. Now, I don't believe there was ever an update, first of all. Now, again, this is not for you guys to go in the comments and go hate on this guy or anything like that. I've actually spoken to Eklund before. This was years ago, which is crazy. It was in like one of his live streams or something like that. But I'm not too sure about this, and I'm just gonna go out there and say that I don't believe that this is true. I don't have sources. I technically have somebody that I could contact, but it's been a few years when it comes to the Islanders. I actually did an interview with that person on this channel. But I don't believe that this is something that makes a whole lot of sense. I also just don't understand why Pajot would be involved. The only thing would be money, but why would the Leafs want to take back a player like that making $5 million a season? So we're going to go into that. But if I was to start the video and tell you anything, first of all, I'm making this because, like I said, somebody commented, actually not somebody, multiple people commented about it and mentioned it to me. But we're going to dive in a little bit. So like I said, this is the only information that we have. But if we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive here. We're looking at William Nylander, and we've talked about this many times on this channel. He's making just under $7 million on an expiring contract with the modified no-trade clause. Now, mind you, I'm not really sure Willie would accept a trade to the Islanders, and that's no disrespect, but I don't know if that guy wants to play for Lou Lamoriello again. But 87 points in 82 games played. And then, of course, the 10 points in the 11 games last year, and he's been consistent. He's been a really good player, but had a career year last season. If we're going to the other rumored player in the deal, it's Jean-Gabriel Pajot, and he's got a $5 million deal for the next 2 seasons after this current one, and he's also got a modified no trade clause. This deal here, this contract, makes absolutely no sense for the Maple Leafs. If they were to spend $5 million on a player, they would simply use that money next season to try to re-sign Tyler Bertuzzi. I know that, for cap reasons, the Islanders would want Pajot to go the other way, but the Leafs don't have to do something like that. This is a player in William Nylander who has a ton of trade value. He's a 40-goal scorer. He's on that expiring contract, but it's still cheap for a team that's trying to go for it and win games this year and go for a Stanley Cup. Getting a guy that can pot 40 goals, who I believe will eclipse 90 points this year. I think he's got 50 in him. I know some people might think that's nuts, but Willie stays healthy. He puts up a bunch of points. But I just don't know how somebody like that would be involved. Now, a lot of people turned and said, well, maybe it's because somebody like Noah Dobson would be involved. And this is where I kind of scratch my head as well. He's 23 years old, big right-handed defenseman who's still very young into his career, $4 million deal for this year and next. And look at the number of points this guy puts up, like 50 points in 78 games and 13 goals. The year before that, same thing, 51 points in 80 games played. You know, he's performed a little bit in the playoffs, but he's a solid two-way guy. He can do a bit of everything on both sides of the puck, and that's something that the Maple Leafs could really use on their blue line. He's been quite successful so far in his young career, but I don't know. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me for the Leafs to do something like that. Again, if we're looking at William Nylander, this guy puts up a ton of points. Why would you ever entertain a deal where Pajot would be involved as well? But nonetheless, who knows? Again, this is no knock on Pajot in any way at all, but it doesn't make a ton of sense. The Maple Leafs don't need to involve an anchor contract, even with the salary cap going up, which is the point that I wanted to make again. If you didn't see my last video, something that I brought up is the fact that the Maple Leafs will be going into next season with over $40 million in cap space. Now, of course, this is without, a lot of holes on this team, but it's a chance for the Maple Leafs to redo their team with grabbing new guys, maybe re-signing a Bertuzzi, maybe re-signing Domi, grabbing a top four defenseman in free agency. If Samsonov doesn't work out, they can go and try to acquire a different goaltender. And this is with just 83.5. I would expect this to go up to 86, maybe 85.5. Like, you're going to get another bump in the salary cap. And of course, you need to sign Austin Matthews and William Nylander. But even if they were to take up over $20 million in cap space, the Leafs still have a lot of money to work with. And they're also one more year away from John Tavares' $11 million deal being off the books. Of course, you have to re-sign Mitch Marner as well, but that cap is going to go up again, another $3 to $4 million. So you would sign Tavares probably to a really cheap hometown deal. He'd probably take less than $5 million, I would assume. And then you're obviously going to give that little bit of extra money to Mitch Marner if he, in fact, sticks around as well. But in the years coming, the cap space for the Maple Leafs is going to open up, as crazy as that sounds. And it almost opens up a second window for the Leafs to do stuff. So I'm almost wondering if the Maple Leafs organization is looking at this year and going, okay, we've got a good team. I don't know how people feel about this team, but I think they've added an element that is tough, and they have a little bit more character in their room. They've got guys that can score, can hit, can fight, can do a little bit of everything. Those guys that really get under your skin, they've got a few of those now. They've replaced Michael Bunting with 3 Michael Buntings, even better, a guy that can drop anybody in Ryan Reeves, and guys like Domi and Bertuzzi who can score but also get under your skin. They're playmakers, they're quick, they can do a bit of everything. So with the Leafs looking at their core four, however you want to look at it, and, everybody talks about the core four, they don't necessarily have to move on from those guys if the trade isn't incredible. But they also have to keep in mind you don't want to overpay William Nylander going into next season because you have that additional cap space. I still think this deal gets done in the $9 million range. I think it will be almost exactly $9 million on a long-term deal for Willie. But if they can't figure that out, just go short-term, meet in the middle, try to go somewhere pretty cheap. That's where you might get into the 8s, the 8.5. Usually it's you get more money on a shorter-term deal, but I think that in this situation, the Maple Leafs would have to tell them, like, look, this is how it's going to be. But there's so many different storylines, so many different things that we're going to be talking about here on this channel going into the season, unless one of these guys just finally signs a contract. But you have to look into the future as well. You can't just look at this season and think, yeah, like, of course they're not going to, or of course they're going to trade him because he won't have a contract next year. The Maple Leafs might slightly overpay just so to know that they've got these guys locked up and then move on from there. Do you overpay William Nylander by a little bit and then just trade somebody else that has a smaller cap hit? Like, do you Do you find a taker for a David Kampf at $2.4 million next year and then just spend that additional money on William Nylander or Austin Matthews and replace him with a cheaper centerman? There's so many different things. And the Leafs are going to have younger guys coming up. Bobby McMahon. You're going to have maybe Robertson stick around if he's healthy. You're obviously going to have Matthew Nyes. You're going to have a Pontus Holmberg. Topi Niemela potentially on that back end. You're going to have Liljegren on a cheaper deal. There's so many different things that you have to look at, and it's so far away. But this all comes into play when looking at William Nylander and a potential trade. But if we're going to wrap this all up into this video, if the Islanders and Leafs were potential trade partners, I'm not sure that a deal centered around Nylander and Pajot makes any sense at all. Pajot is not even remotely close to the player that William Nylander is now. He never eclipses 50 points, and he's on the decline. He's not on the up. He's on the decline. And unless, the trade was with a Noah Dobson attached to it, then it probably makes a lot more sense. But why would the Islanders want to do that either? It goes both ways. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. Again, I'm trying to make this my full-time gig. Lots of great videos coming up for you guys here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.